So the Bivouac is going to be basically an over glorified safe house. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. So I'm watching this footage from something that took place, I believe, down in Brazil. And it's the same mission that we've seen in every reveal that Ubisoft has done for Breakpoint so far. But I wanted to go over this one part where the player sits down in the bivouac and really dissect what we're getting into here with the bivouac, because it sounded like a really cool new feature when it was disclosed to us what it would be. You know, it sounded kind of interesting, but when you really take a look at it, past just what it is at face value and get into the nitty-gritty of the mechanics behind it, it really just seems like over glorified safe house, and something that I don't really believe players are gonna have a fun time with. I don't think it's gonna be a fun mechanic, and I think people are gonna avoid it, to be honest. The bivouac is going to act basically like a safe house, which means you'll get to it, you'll fast travel to it, and I think that's all you're going to want to do. As you can see here, right? So the guy sits down in the bivouac and an animation goes off. So now imagine you're going to every bivouac, every safe house like in Wildlands, and you have to go through this animation. So maybe you could hit escape, you could fast forward it, but that's a pain already as it is. So now, okay, so as we can see, when we actually enter this bivouac, we have here preparations, and you're going to be able to hear the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess there's one we can't really see. So they said there was one of 6, right? So something resistance, 20% fatigue resistance. So you'll be able to, I guess, run more. 10% drone range, 10% stamina. Oh wait. Oh, stamina, probably it gives you a more stamina bar, and the fatigue resistance means you could just kind of run more, I guess. So those kind of you got to balance those out. 5% accuracy, so that's cool. I guess for guns that aren't as accurate, you can make them more accurate by going to the bivouac. I don't know. So you come here, you're gonna end up picking one of these. So this guy picked one where he ate food and bam, he got the eating 10% injury resistance. So I guess that was this first one that we couldn't see. Eating, he ate and got 10% injury resistance, so I guess he could get shot a little more now, right? So then he goes to tactics, and you could pick whatever class you want to be, which I know supposedly they limited, I mean, they opened up the limitations that they originally had with the guns. Now you could just have any gun. So assault, class technique, true grit, class item, a gas grenade, and then sharpshooter, armor buster, advanced sensor launcher. Here's cloak and run, Venti black spray, Venta black spray. So, you know, and then there are challenges to rank up. So the way you actually play will benefit you, I guess, with ranking up and getting points and leveling up. You know, I don't know. And so I guess that's cool if that's something you wanted. And then right here, this is something that they didn't go to, which will, from what we know, this is probably like the crafting system. So you go in there and you craft items, but probably didn't go to that because since this is the demo, he doesn't have any materials to craft. So you're gonna open up a bivouac, go through the animation, give yourself a buff. Is the buff, are you even really gonna feel the difference of that buff if this game really isn't designed for you to kind of feel that difference to begin with? You know what I'm saying? are people really, are they really going to keep coming back to the Bivouac just to get a buff? When you're sitting down there as a creative director and as a developer, game developers, and you're wondering what systems could you implement to make the game fun? Does anybody really think that's fun? Do you guys out there, do you think that's fun? Do you think it's actually fun to go to a Bivouac, press a button, go through an animation, press another button, and now you have a buff? And if the buff is extremely important, remember guys, we're going to have raids in this game. So imagine having to backtrack out to a Bivouac to get a buff so you can, you know, like, you never know how they're going to design it. I'm just, you know, I'm speculating. And it seems the casual market wins out again, because here we have a system that could have been implemented really, really cool with God knows how many type of things that they could have implemented for this Bivouac to be used. For instance, with the injury system, with carrying your friends. What if you're all out of everything, bandages, needles or whatnot, to hype yourself, to fix yourself? Like, will you have to come back to a Bivouac to heal up your teammate? Is that something that the Bivouac is going to be used for? The Bivouacs, they're safe houses, basically. They're little campsites, right? So as you can see, when he comes in, all right, look at this smoke here. So that's most likely, that's another Bivouac location. So he can go to that one and open it up. But he comes to this one, he approaches the campsite, and boom, he starts up his site. He's got a little fire going, got a little campsite, he eats his food. What if instead of it being a predestined location, it was resource based? You can only open up a certain amount of bivouacs throughout the land at a certain amount of time, or each land perhaps maybe has a certain amount of bivouac locations, and in that land you could only open up a certain amount depending on maybe resource based. I don't know. It just seems like this is yet another way of disguising something we already have, which are safe houses in wildlands, and trying to make it something that it really doesn't need to be. I don't really think people need to sit down at a bivouac to give themselves a buff. I guess the crafting makes sense, but then why couldn't we just have fast travel locations and actually set up camp wherever we wanted to with a resource-based system? You know, so we could craft. We're not going to be able to craft outside of bivouac. So every time, imagine every time you run out of a certain craftable item and you need it, imagine you have to fast travel back to the bivouac, fast travel back to your team just to craft items. That doesn't seem like a good mechanic in a game. You know, do you really want people to consistently be going back to a bivouac just to craft an item, especially if the game is going to be kind of survivalish based, where you're running out of items quickly and you don't have a surplus? I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just gonna be just like Wildlands, where it's kind of like you never run out of items, and when you do, there's a crate laying around. I don't know if it's gonna be like that, but I'm just wondering, what do you guys think about this bivouac system, the way it seems implemented? I think after you play for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, all the bivouac locations are at your disposal, just like all the safe houses were in Wildlands. You're just going to use them to fast travel to. And in the beginning of the game, when you're first playing, who wants to go through that animation to set it up? It's kind of like it's lost on you. After the first time, it's lost on you. And anytime something is lost on you after the first time, the second time, that right there, developers should be like, you know what, maybe we should abandon this and think of something else that might be more engaging to the player. Because this right here, this is not engaging. This is just, oh, you press a button, you press a button, you press a button, I have a buff. I don't know. I'm trying to think of what the bivouac system could have been. in Breakpoint. Comment down below if you have an idea of, you know, how they really should have implemented this type of system, because as I see it now with this gameplay, it just I don't know, it just doesn't appeal to me. It doesn't seem like people are gonna care. It doesn't seem like, you know, also with this, with changing your class, you have to go to a camp to change your class. You're it's just weird. It's weird how you're locking people behind things at this bivouac camp. For what? For what? What does that provide for gameplay? And as you can see here, the bivouac also acts now as um time. You could change the time. I was gonna say time travel, but I guess it, you know, somewhat. So you could come to a bivouac and change what time you want to play. So you could, I guess, always be playing at night if you want to play at night. So, you know, they added a few things to this safe house, which is now just a bivouac and Breakpoint, but I don't know. I saw this, I wanted to get it out there. I wanted to show you guys what the bivouac is going to entail with the eating to buff yourself. How do you guys feel about that? You know, you go to a bivouac and you get a buff. Does that even make sense for Ghost Recon Breakpoint? Is that, you know, does that scare you for, you know, the end game? Are these buffs going to matter? Is your team going to have to be composed of people who use different types of buffs to get through like the end game raid? You know, let me know what you guys think about this. Comment down below. How would you have implemented a bivouac system? Is it fine the way it is? You know, just keeping it kind of like a safe house with a little extra, you know, mechanic, you know, a little something sprinkled on top to make it somewhat interactive, unlike the safe house in Wildlands, which really had no interactivity. So, or interactivity, is that even interaction? Whatever. Anyway, guys, that's all for now. That's all I wanted to talk about in this video, this bivouac system. Like I said, I think it should have been, you could drop it anywhere for this type of stuff, and the safe house type mechanic where you could fast travel or whatnot, that could have been on something else, and it could have been resource based. So you have to gather certain types of resources to sit down so you can even eat at the bivouac, or what's the point of you know, setting up camp if you can't craft anything? So things like that. But anyway, guys, let me know how you feel about this, some ideas you would have. And yeah, that's all for now. Thanks for watching. I will talk to you guys in the next video. All right, I'll see you later. Peace.